Every single month, you dump $2,500 into a faceless corporate landlord's bank account, and then you lay in bed doom-scrolling Zillow, staring at 7.5% interest rates, silently accepting that you're just going to be renting forever. Look, stop crying about the 2026 housing market and start playing the game. What if I told you that you could legally buy a house and the guy sleeping on the exact opposite side of your living room drywall is going to completely pay off your 30-year mortgage for you? It's called house hacking, and it is legit the greatest wealth-building cheat code for Gen Z and millennials right now. Instead of blowing your savings on a massively overpriced single-family home, you use an FHA loan to drop just 3.5% down on a duplex or a triplex. You live in one half, you rent out the other half, and your tenant's monthly rent check completely covers your mortgage, your property taxes, and your insurance. You are legally forcing your neighbor to buy you a house. You get to live entirely rent-free, build massive sweat equity, and officially become a real estate investor while Wall Street hedge funds cry themselves to sleep. But you can't just pull this off anywhere. You need cities with sky-high rental demand and multifamily homes that won't bankrupt you. Today, we're exposing the top 10 U.S. cities where house hacking is literally a glitch in the financial matrix, letting you beat the housing market and live for free. Let's get into it.
Number 10, Kansas City, Missouri. If you want to kickstart your real estate investing journey without completely draining your savings, Kansas City is an absolute gold mine. The stats? It consistently ranks as one of the best cities for house hacking in America because the rent-to-price ratio actually makes sense. You can easily snag a massive, solid brick duplex here for under $250,000, and the rent you pull in from the other unit will mathematically wipe out your entire FHA loan payment. Let's get real for a second, though. Hacking the Midwest housing market means you're trading financial stress for extreme weather anxiety and a heavy meat-sweat lifestyle. Yeah, you live for free, but your tenant is definitely going to be a hardcore barbecue fanatic who fires up a massive backyard smoker at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. Sharing a duplex in Kansas City means you're basically bunking with the Weather Channel. You'll save thousands of dollars a year, but you gotta mentally prepare yourself to grab your dog and sprint for the basement the second the sky turns a weird shade of green. It's the ultimate Midwest trade-off. Imagine this scenario. You're sleeping like a baby in your master bedroom. You have zero financial anxiety because your tenant's rent just hit your Venmo. Then the citywide tornado sirens start violently blaring at 3 a.m. and you have to hustle down to the shared basement, making incredibly awkward eye contact with your tenant who is somehow still eating a plate of burnt Dan's. Number 9. Albany, New York. New York City has turned into a completely unaffordable dystopian hellscape, but if you drive a couple hours north to the state capital of Albany, you hit a multi-family paradise. The stats? Albany is anchored by giant hospitals, state government workers, and a huge college crowd. This creates a rock-solid, zero-vacancy renter pool, making it one of the safest places to buy a duplex on the East Coast. But before you pack the U-Haul, you need to know what being a live-in landlord in upstate New York actually means. You just accidentally volunteered for a snow removal side hustle. Sure, your mortgage is getting footed by a couple of grad students or state clerks, but when that brutal New York winter hits, the legal liability of keeping the property ice-free falls 100% on you. House hacking in Albany is basically like locking yourself inside a frozen snow globe where you're the designated janitor. The FHA multifamily hack works flawlessly here, but you are literally trading your rent payment for sheer freezing physical labor. You'll build generational wealth, but you're going to earn every penny of it with a snow shovel. Set the scene. It's a gorgeous, quiet winter morning. You're sipping coffee by the window in your free apartment, watching the snow fall gracefully. Then your phone aggressively rings at 5:30 a.m. because your tenant's Honda Civic is buried under 4 feet of solid ice in the shared driveway, and they're demanding you come outside in -12-degree weather to dig them out so they can get to their desk job. Number 8. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee wasn't just built for beer and bratwursts, it was historically engineered specifically for multifamily living. The stats? This city is legendary for its side-by-side duplexes. Unlike other markets where you have to hunt for a multifamily setup, Milwaukee is absolutely flooded with affordable, historic duplexes sitting right around that sweet $200,000 mark. It is essentially the undisputed house hacking capital of the U.S. But what Zillow conveniently leaves out is that your tenants are going to treat you less like a landlord and way more like a drinking buddy. Milwaukee has this aggressively friendly, Midwest nice culture. Finding a renter is incredibly easy, but setting professional boundaries? Yeah, good luck with that. You aren't just collecting a rent check, you're adopting a roommate who happens to live on the other side of a plaster wall. Your tenant is absolutely going to invite themselves over to your side of the porch, and they'll almost certainly try to pay their rent in the form of deep-fried cheese curds and local craft IPAs at least once a year. Think about your average Tuesday. You're chilling on the massive wooden front porch of your 1920s historic duplex. You're sipping coffee by the window in your free apartment, watching the snow fall gracefully. Then your phone aggressively rings at 5:30 a.m. because your tenant's Honda Civic is buried under 4 feet of solid ice in the shared driveway, and they're demanding you come outside in -12-degree weather to dig them out so they can get to their desk job.
Number 7, Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati is a secret gold mine if you want to skip the duplex and jump straight into the big leagues with a 3-unit property. The stats? The city's historic core, especially around neighborhoods like Over the Rhine, is packed with gorgeous 19th century triplexes. By using a multi-family loan here, you can live in 1 unit, rent out the other 2, and actually generate positive cash flow. That means your neighbors aren't just paying your mortgage, they're literally paying you a profit to live there. Here is the brutal reality check, though. To unlock this real estate cheat code, you have to subject yourself to the absolute chaos of Ohio's culinary culture. You get the incredible brick architecture, the amazing cash flow, and the walkable streets, but your tenants are going to be living off Skyline chili, which is basically wet spaghetti covered in cinnamon-spiced meat and a mountain of shredded cheddar. House hacking a triplex in Cincinnati means you're mathematically outsmarting the U.S. economy, but you have to live in a building that constantly smells like an Italian restaurant had a violent high-speed collision with a Mediterranean spice market. It is a highly profitable, deeply confusing sensory experience. Picture this. You're reviewing your monthly spreadsheets in your beautifully renovated historic triplex. You collected 2 full rent checks this month, putting you entirely in the green. You're a financial genius. Then, the smell of cinnamon, chocolate, and boiling ground beef wafts through the shared AC vents from Unit B, reminding you that true wealth requires an iron stomach. Number 5, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Because New York City and Boston have become utterly hostile to anyone under 30 trying to save a buck, thousands of remote workers are flooding into Philly. The stats? Philly is famous for its massive rowhouses, and tons of them have already been legally chopped up into duplexes and triplexes. The renter pool here is massive, highly educated, and desperate for affordable housing, making it the ultimate East Coast loophole for house hacking. But nobody warns you about what it's actually like to be a live-in landlord in Philly. You're essentially subletting an apartment inside a sports asylum. Philadelphians are fiercely loyal, highly aggressive, and unapologetically loud. You might be collecting premium East Coast rent, but you're sharing a structural wall with people who treat Sunday football like a high-stakes religious war. Living next to your Philly tenant is like strapping yourself to a psychological roller coaster. If the Eagles win, they're going to scream and punch the walls in absolute joy. If the Eagles lose, they're going to scream and punch the walls in absolute devastation. Your entire real estate investment relies on the emotional stability of a city that famously has to grease its own street poles so fans won't climb them. Visualize this. It's a quiet Sunday evening. You just successfully closed on an incredibly lucrative Philly rowhouse duplex. The numbers make perfect sense and your financial future is locked in. Then, a flat-screen TV shatters in the unit next door, your tenant screams "Go Birds" at the top of their lungs at midnight, and you realize you have successfully monetized absolute madness. Number 4, Providence, Rhode Island. If you want to cash in on the massive tech and college wealth of Boston without paying absurd Boston prices, Providence is your backdoor hack. The stats? High-income renters are actively fleeing Massachusetts, looking for cheaper rent just 45 minutes down the highway. And lucky for you, Providence is world famous for its triple-deckers, massive, historic 3-story wooden houses. You can easily buy one of these, rent out 2 floors to desperate Boston commuters, and live completely free on the 3rd. But let's not sugarcoat the structural reality here.
You're buying a giant 100-year-old wooden box. While your tenants are busy funding your early retirement, you're going to become super familiar with 19th century plumbing, aggressively creaky hardwood floors, and some of the most chaotic drivers on the East Coast. House hacking in Providence means you're a real estate mastermind, but you will also hear every single footstep your upstairs tenant takes. It is a highly profitable, deeply acoustic lifestyle. Set the scene. You're enjoying a quiet morning coffee in your rent-free apartment. Your bank account looks amazing because your 2 tenants just paid up. Then, the guy on the second floor drops a heavy textbook, the 110-year-old wooden floorboards echo like a cannon blast, your ceiling fan rattles aggressively, and you silently remind yourself that getting rich requires a massive amount of noise tolerance.
Number 4. Omaha, Nebraska. If you want a real estate investment that is completely immune to the 2026 economic roller coaster, welcome to Warren Buffett's backyard. The stats? Omaha's economy is a tank. It's packed with Fortune 500 companies, medical centers, and high-paying corporate gigs. That means your duplex tenants aren't going to default on their rent when the economy gets weird. Buying a multifamily home here is one of the safest financial bets in the entire country. Here's the catch, though. To unlock this level of financial invincibility, you have to voluntarily spend your youth living in Nebraska. The multifamily hack works flawlessly, but you are trading coastal nightlife for endless flat plains, highly unpredictable winters, and a social calendar that heavily revolves around college baseball and steak. You'll be completely debt-free by the time you're 30, but your weekends will consist entirely of going to Target and watching the corn grow. You are sacrificing geographical excitement for absolute, rock-solid financial dominance. Imagine this. You just checked your investment portfolio. You are miles ahead of everyone you went to high school with. You step outside onto the porch of your cash-flowing duplex, take a deep breath of fresh air, and look out into the distance. You see absolutely nothing but flat land stretching into eternity. A rogue tumbleweed rolls past your driveway, and you proudly accept your incredibly wealthy, deeply boring Midwestern fate. Number 3. Grand Rapids, Michigan. Grand Rapids has quietly blown up as the ultimate destination for medical professionals. The stats? This city is essentially one giant, booming healthcare hub. Every single year, thousands of high-income travel nurses and medical residents flood into the city, and they desperately need quiet, reliable places to rent. Buying a duplex near the medical mile here means you're renting to the absolute best tenants on earth, exhausted doctors and nurses who pay premium rent and never throw parties. But there's a massive catch to being a live-in landlord for medical staff. You are now a hostage to the night shift. You might own the building on paper, but if your tenant is a trauma nurse who works from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., your house operates on an inverted time zone. You're collecting prime real estate cash flow, but you basically have to tiptoe around your own house in broad daylight. You can't vacuum your living room, you can't blast music, and you definitely can't do any loud DIY renovations at noon, because the person footing your mortgage bill is trying to get REM sleep on the other side of your drywall. Think about your average Wednesday here. It's 1 p.m. on a beautiful sunny afternoon. You're stoked to hang a new picture frame in your living room. You grab a hammer, then you pause, gently set the hammer down, and quietly whisper to yourself because your tenant just wrapped a 14-hour ER shift, and you know waking them up would be both morally wrong and a massive threat to your business model. Number 2. Richmond, Virginia. Washington, D.C. has become completely unlivable for young professionals trying to actually save money. The stats? A massive wave of remote workers and government contractors are fleeing the capital and driving 2 hours south to Richmond. This city is packed with gorgeous, historic multifamily homes that cost a fraction of DC prices. You buy the duplex, and the high-earning DC escapees will gladly pay your mortgage because it's still way cheaper than renting a closet in Washington. What Zillow won't show you, however, is that Richmond has rapidly morphed into the hipster capital of the East Coast. You're going to get premium rent, but your tenants are going to be aggressively trendy.
House hacking in Richmond means your tenant is probably going to ask if they can build a sustainable compost bin in the shared backyard, and they will absolutely try to convince you that paying rent via a decentralized cryptocurrency is the future. It's a highly lucrative market, but you gotta mentally prepare yourself to be a landlord to people who unironically ride penny-faring bicycles to local breweries. Visualize this. You're standing in the shared backyard of your historic brick duplex. Your property value is soaring. Then your tenant walks outside wearing a vintage 1970s jumpsuit, hands you a jar of homemade fermented kombucha as a thank you for fixing the sink, and proceeds to aggressively lecture you about the environmental impact of your lawnmower, while you just smile and wait for the rent check to clear. And finally, the undisputed king of cash flow. Ground zero for the 2026 house hacking cheat code, Cleveland, Ohio. The stats here actually feel illegal. You can easily buy a massive, fully renovated duplex for under $150,000. When you rent out one side, the rent doesn't just cover your FHA mortgage, your taxes, and your insurance. It actively leaves you with an extra $300 to $400 of pure profit in your pocket every single month. To unlock the greatest mathematical housing glitch in America, you only have to sacrifice one thing: your ego. You have to look your friends in the eye and tell them you willingly moved to Cleveland. You're gonna have to endure brutal lake effect winters, gray skies, and endless jokes from people who are dropping $3,000 a month to rent a shoebox in Los Angeles. But while they're drowning in consumer debt trying to look cool on Instagram, you are living entirely free, generating positive cash flow and building a real estate empire before you even hit 30. Here's what living the dream actually looks like. You're sitting by the window in the middle of February. It's snowing sideways, the sky is violently gray, and the wind chill is aggressively negative. You take a sip of hot coffee, open your banking app, see that your tenant just paid you to live in your own house, and you smile, knowing that getting rich in Cleveland is the ultimate revenge against the American housing market.